Hey folks, this is Ethan from the Sawtooth Avalanche Center with your weekend update for April 9th. And this will be our last weekend update of the season. And I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I think we've got enough great feedback from you folks that will likely continue this product next year. So as a reminder, this isn't a replacement for the forecast. You still got 2 more of those to look forward to in the coming days. So I suggest you sign up and get those in your inbox if you aren't already. Let's get started. So last week, little week in review. It was really hot Saturday and Sunday. Those were 2 of the hottest days so far this year in the mountains. And there was wet avalanche activity associated with that we'll get into. It snowed a little bit on Monday and temperatures cooled considerably. The light snow kind of favored the boulders and likely the white clouds, although we didn't get much info from the white clouds recently. It was cooler but still a bit mushy in the afternoons as the sun kind of warmed up those crusts near the surface, and people were still sinking into wet snow below. Those conditions were pretty prevalent Monday through Wednesday. Yesterday, though, it got much cooler and it was very windy, particularly down in the Magic Valley, but it was windy up here as well. And kind of put our wet avalanche concerns to bed yesterday and certainly by today, this morning, which is Friday. We'll look back at our danger from the week. We started the week out at moderate, and that was that Saturday. And then Sunday, we bumped up to considerable. And there were some natural avalanches as well as skier-triggered avalanches on that day. As temperatures began to cool off again, it takes more than just below freezing temperatures for one night to cool off a hot, steamy snowpack like we had last week. So you might see surface freezes, but there's still wet snow below those crusts. And we remained at moderate danger for the concern that those crusts would break down and you'd end up with some wet avalanche activity later in the afternoons. As those temperatures cooled, however, and that surface crust thickened, it's starting to become impenetrable even during the hotter parts of the day. And that's where we're at now, where we're at low danger. These are the temperatures at lower tightest weather station from that warm up last week. The tail end of that graph on the far right are those last 2 bumps in temperatures on the top graph there are upwards of 50 degrees, a little over 50 degrees at lower tightest, which is up by Galena Summit. And so you can see why we were having some wet avalanche issues, not only from daytime highs that were the highest of the year, but also, and maybe more importantly, were those low temperatures, which you can see are remaining above freezing. So 35 degrees on the second, roughly 38 degrees on the third, and low temperatures in the 40s overnight up on Galena Summit. And that led to some wet avalanche activity. This is a wet avalanche in the west fork of the east fork of the Salmon. That Ben took this picture. It was observed on the 5th. And it was an east, southeast, and south kind of facing terrain around 9,000 feet of elevation. So pretty sizable wet avalanche observed on that day. This is debris from April 4th. So that would have been that Sunday. A skier triggered avalanche on Senate Peak. And this is down at the bottom of the debris pile. Certainly terrain you wouldn't want to get tangled up in, even though these slides, start relatively narrow or even at a point. They can collect quite a bit of wet snow as they go and push you into places like this that would be pretty tough to escape. That same day, again, this was the day we were at considerable on a southwest aspect, 9,700 feet above Gladiator Creek, which is just kind of behind Galena Lodge. You can see a better example of what I was just describing, where an avalanche could start at a point, in this case, those hot, dark rocks up near the top. And the wet, loose avalanche just kind of fans out. And then as it got further down the slope, it flanked out into a small wet slab avalanche. So there was likely water underneath that slab at that weak layer that failed and continued on down the slope. Here's a little zoom in closer photo of that same slide, and you can see that crown, and how soft that crown looks is pretty indicative of a wet slab avalanche. They weren't all wet avalanches, however. As we started to work our way early into this last week, temperatures had cooled off and we got a little bit of snow, as I mentioned, on Monday night, focused on the boulders. And we saw a dry slab avalanche, likely a dry slab avalanche. This was triggered by a couple skiers up on Galena Peak on a north and northwest aspect, and it was just this is definitely an outlier, the only one of these types of avalanches we've seen in quite some time, really. But there's getting preferentially loaded here, even with this relatively small amount of snow, and it appears to have failed on one of the deeper weak layers in our snowpack, potentially on facets buried in December or in January. Our weather forecast, looking ahead, it's going to be breezy and cool again on Saturday. Relatively cool and uneventful through Tuesday. And then we've got a storm coming in Wednesday into Thursday. And I'll show you on a weather model where it's going to come from and why it's going to do what it does. But it looks like it might favor the southern mountains with 3 to 6 inches of snow potentially. So if we look at weather model here real quick, this is the jet stream. We'll reverse back to where it is today. The jet stream's kind of coming in, supporting a pretty healthy, large, low pressure system that's impacting British Columbia currently. And as we step forward in time, we can see that red section, which indicates the fastest wind speeds in the upper atmosphere. So this is the location of the jet stream. You'll see it start to sag down over Oregon, and then eventually Idaho right here. And this is middle of the day Saturday, where the jet's directly overhead. So that's going to bring our breezy conditions on Saturday. And then you'll see a little bubble start to form over Washington here in Oregon. And then we have what we call cutoff low, where some of the energy from the jet stream is going way north. So if you see that red streak going almost vertically into Alaska, then there's also some closed circles that you can see right over Idaho. That's a low pressure system with some jet energy that's kind of stuck over Idaho. And that's going to bring some south and southwest flow, maybe even east flow, and some moisture into our southern mountains, which can give us a chance for some snow on Wednesday and Thursday. So looking forward into the remainder of the week, or at least in through Tuesday, as far as this goes. This is Galena Pass. You can see pretty mild temperatures. Actually, it's going to be really nice up there skiing, finding corn, I imagine, in the 30s, upper 20s, and some good amount of sun, and then some solid freezes overnight to keep things held together. We move down into Ketchum, though, you can see the highs are going to be in the 50s, cooling off maybe into the mid 40s. So it's still pretty nice weather as far as spring skiing is concerned. It shouldn't get too mushy out there again, at least not yet. So as we start to look ahead, we are wrapping up. Our final forecast is going to be this Sunday, April 11th. And our final digging deeper of the season is going to be that following Wednesday, so Wednesday of next week at 6:30 p.m. And Chris Lundy is going to be presenting a talk called Forecasts Have Ended, Now What? So very timely. And he's going to get into what you guys can do to keep yourself on top of the conditions, and thinking about creating essentially your own mental forecast each day before you go out, without the use of the forecast, since our last forecast will be on Sunday. So it should be a pretty informative talk for you guys looking to get out and extend your ski season well into the spring and early summer. And so I encourage you guys to check it out. With that, even though our forecasts have ended, still want to encourage you guys to submit observations, and we'll do the same when we're out in the mountains. It's been a great year for public observations this year. You guys have really shared a ton of really important information, sent in a lot of great photos that we've ended up using in the forecasts. And we want to thank you guys for that. And from all of us here at the at the Avalanche Center. Ben, Chris, Scott, and myself, and as well as the friends and everyone else involved with our education programs and so forth. We just want to thank you guys, and it truly is a privilege to be a part of this mountain community here, and we couldn't do it without your support. So with that, hope you have an awesome spring, an awesome summer. Share your observations, tag us in your social media posts, and we'll catch you guys next year. Take care.